Kamu minum juga? Enggak. Coca-Cola, cappuccino. Udah boleh minum es.
Welcome to the final round debate contest held by State Vocational High School Kepanjen. Today we have two teams. The affirmative team from SMKN Malang. The first speaker is Miss Erika. The second speaker is Miss Fastolia, and the third speaker is Mr. Haikal. The replaced speaker will be delivered by Miss Fastolia. And the opposition team from SMKN Sidoarjo. The first speaker, Mr. Bagus. The second speaker, Miss Asafira. The third speaker is Mr. Afif. The replaced speaker will be delivered by Mr. Bagus. And our adjudicator here, the Mr. Catur from Polinema, Mr. Choi from Brawijaya University, Mr. Nila from Malang University, Miss Eka from Brawijaya University, Miss Eka from Brawijaya University, and Mr. Bagus from Polinema. And now to open this debate, I call the first speaker of positive team, give applause to Ms.
Mr. Madam Speaker, this event held in the Parliament of Indonesia, where as a democratic country, Indonesia would have the president elected in 2013. We think the problem is there is a feature of one candidate of the president election, that is Jokowi. We think it's problematic because it's not kind of the correct momentum for Jokowi to enroll the president election, and moreover, with the role of the Jokowi itself, it will destroy of the competitiveness of the election and the development inside the party itself. So, as team government, our stand is clear that we want to regret the appointment of Jokowi as the candidate for the president in the 2013. We think it's real value judgmental debate, and we want to talk about whether or not it's justifiable or not to regret the appointment of Jokowi as candidate for the president in 2015. In my speech, I'm going to deliver two arguments. First, on why it's philosophically correct to implement this motion, and then the second one on how it will harm the competitiveness inside the party itself. Mr. Madam Speaker, let's go into my first layer in the first argument on why it's philosophically correct to implement this motion. Going to my first layer. Ladies and gentlemen, we think it's not the correct momentum for Jokowi to be the president, because we believe that Jokowi is still the governor of the Jakarta. That inside Jakarta, there are so much problems, right, that have not been solved yet fully by the governor in Jakarta itself. But it's still in the process of the solvency that they do. For example, like in here status quo, Jokowi try to handle with make the any kind of the policies, which is still in the process. And for instance, in transportation, for instance, they want to handle it by make MRT, for example, but it's still in the process and doesn't finish yet, right? So we think, ladies and gents, we think it's not justifiable if Jokowi just leave this kind of problem that has not been solved yet and become the president. President and the government is like a mutual exclusively thing. You cannot try this task of the president and also the government at the same time, right? Moreover, the problem in the Jakarta is really complex, and how the problem is that it's really complicated, and Jakarta is the capital city of the Indonesia. That's why we think Jakarta still needs Jokowi. And number two, we think the progress of Jokowi has not proven yet, because all of this policy is in the process. So we think it is the correct momentum for Jokowi to be the president in 2014. So we think it's not correct momentum for Jokowi, which is they still in the progress, they still run in that progress while they be the governor of Jakarta itself. And going to my second layer, we think the reasons of Jokowi to enroll the president election is not valid anyway, because Jokowi is only forced by PDIP for their party itself. Because we see that PDIP is lack of the qualified person, and the way PDIP to increase their dignity is that use this one facial of Jokowi, and we think it's not the full intention from Jokowi itself, because Jokowi just forced from this party, from this PDIP party. And we think that the idea of the representative, it should have the full intention and no forcing at all anyway. That's why we think that this kind of the problem or the enrollment of the Jokowi itself will be balancing with the essence of the representative. We think the idea of representative first, those intentions that I have talked before, and then the second one, we think that inside the party that already hold the top selection, but this enrollment of Jokowi not fulfilling this, because we just choose who already qualified without the top selection. It's different with the other parties, right? In PDIP, this will create the irrational decision, because they choose just based on the popularity of the Jokowi itself. And going to my second argument on how it will help the competitiveness inside the party. Ladies and gents, the reason why PDIP enrolled Jokowi, because the case of the PDIP is lack of the qualified leaders. You only use Jokowi for increase your dignity as the party itself. We believe that the party, to show their quality, it must be a whole. This is the essence of the party itself. If Jokowi is becoming the president, we think Jokowi's party only use the charisma of Jokowi itself and use this one man show of the Jokowi to empower the pride and also the dignity of the party of the Jokowi itself. And we believe that actually party, the representative, it should not only in the one person, but more than one person, because this party is represent the voices of the society that they really need. So what I've proven to you, Mr. and Madam Speaker, that first it is philosophically correct, because first we think it's not the correct momentum at all for Jokowi, because he's still doing the progress to be the governor in the Jakarta itself. And then the second one, we think the reasons of Jokowi to enroll president election is not valid anyway. And then the second one, on how it will harm the competitiveness inside the party, because we believe that inside the party you should all the members should represent this thing. So because of those reasons, we beg you to propose.
The first speaker of the women team spent 7 minutes 15 seconds. Now I call the first speaker of opposition team with applause to Mr. Bang.
Cek.
Starting from the article of the we believe that every single citizen has the right to vote and to be voted in terms of election, ladies and gentlemen. That is why, acting as the opposition, we came up with the stance that we would like to let those appointments, which is proposed Jokowi as the candidate of the president in 2014, ladies and gentlemen. Because we have the goal that we would like to bring betterment first for the Jakarta itself, second for Indonesia.
Now, before I go to my contention, let me tell you some point of clarification and also rebuttal regarding the Prime Minister of this House. First, clarification. We believe on how they do not have a clear stance regarding this debate. How come? They keep merely stating that their stance is they regret those actions and so on and so forth. So what, ladies and gentlemen, when they are getting to regret those, whether they are going to ban those appointments or not, then we believe on how there is no future further action regarding that proposal. When they have rejected those, so what, ladies and gentlemen, what the thing that they will propose at the very first place. Second point of clarification on how they stated that they stated that the problem in Jakarta is morally complex since a lot of cases and so on and so forth. Firstly, we believe on how they never try to prove to you the factual proof, the example, what kind of cases which never had been done with the Jokowi itself. Moreover, even if they stated that it's still the process, we think that the person who works for those making betterment in those process is just the workers, ladies and gentlemen. The existence of Jokowi as the leader, he just made the regulation, he just guide the workers and so on and so forth. So we think that it doesn't make any sense since when Jokowi left as the governor of Jakarta, it will give effect toward the development of Jakarta itself. Moreover, we see on how when he left from the Solo, is there nothing happened toward the Solo itself? Right? It proves to you that the existence of leader for making process and so on and so forth, it doesn't make any sense. Now, stepping into my rebuttals here, I have two major points of rebuttals regarding the Prime Minister of this House statement. They believe on how that Jokowi is being forced by the parties to pay the and so on and so forth. Firstly, we believe no, because simply that let's see again and again for this motion, ladies and gentlemen, there is a word of appointment, means that those kind of appointment will happen when you have proposed and and you agree toward those proposals, ladies and gentlemen. We think that is the idea of appointment that simply forgot by
the sponsor.
Yes, for my best friend.
Yes, because being in the party itself, they contribute a lot. Jokowi cannot reject the demand from the party because this party has contributed so much more here.
Yes, Jokowi cannot reject because the existence of Jokowi itself, he has the propose that they make a betterment toward the society and how those kind of proposed intention and nothing else will be achieved with our proposal. I will explore further in my next argumentation. We think that stepping back into my rebuttal, we think that Jokowi is never being forced since Jokowi is being accept those kind of proposal, right? So we think that the idea of forcement regarding the Prime Minister is totally surrounded down. Second of all, on the idea about dignity and so on and so forth, they believe that this is the irrational decision since PDIP just choose one representative based on the popularity and so on and so forth. Under that logic, we believe on how the popularity will be achieved when those kind of leader has fulfilled their job to guarantee the life of the society, right? Based on that, we think that Jokowi is also the ideal leader for the Jakarta itself, and moreover, being the leader of Indonesia itself. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, because he has a big popularity, we would like to propose him as the representative of those party and being the presidential candidates. Now, come to my extension. Firstly, we would like to talk on the human right. We believe on how that human right has the yes indeed, right can be limited if those kind of right harms other people. But let's say in this case, those kind of action which propose Jokowi as the presidential candidate never harm other people, right? And those why we believe that with the freedom of limited even their proposal. But and moreover, let's see what is going to be happen with that proposal. When they just keep merely stating that their stance they would like to regret and so on and so forth. So what is going to be happen when they have regret those? Whether that's not quite clear at the very first place. Moreover, let's talk on the idea of appointment. We believe on how the appointment will create after there is the consideration and nothing else, right? And we believe on how the idea of partage. Those kind of parties will propose the welfare of the society. And let's see what is going on. Let's see in the factual proof itself. We see on how Jokowi is successful to create a betterment in Jakarta. For example, on how Jokowi works in Tanah Abang itself. We believe on how Jokowi has successful enough to make a betterment in Tanah Abang itself, and we believe on how it fulfills the society demand to make the easy to help the society to ease the economical activity of their ladies and gentlemen. Second of all, we believe on how Jokowi has created the good, the successful and so on and so forth by creating a simple bureaucracy. Why is so? Because we believe on how those simple bureaucracy will support the activity of the society itself. Now, let's see what is another thing else. Why acting as the opposition, we keep arguing that actually Jokowi is justified to be proposed, because simply we believe on how the acting government is led by the leader itself. Like, let's see the essence of leader itself, on how leader will provide the society. Another question will be how Jokowi is appropriate in the idea of leader. Let's see what is going to be happen with Jokowi in the current circumstances. We believe on how Jokowi is always getting closer and closer with the society by impromptu visiting and so on and so forth. Another question will be why this action can be justified, because simply by using the impromptu visit, they go directly to the society and knowing the society problems and solve it, ladies and gentlemen. This is never being done by another representative, by another candidates and so on and so forth. Let's see the example on how Jokowi making the renovation and so on and so forth that I have proposed to you. Now, we believe on how that is the one thing that should be proposed by the affirmative side of the house, but they did not, ladies and gentlemen. What is the difference with Jokowi and another representative? Well, and we think that actually Jokowi and another candidates it's totally same. Since why? The question will be why they are going to regret Jokowi, since why it is not another candidate. Based on this logical explanation, we beg you to oppose to this motion.
Ladies and gents, because Indonesia is a democratic country, we always try to uphold maximum level of competitiveness. That's why we always regard the existence of government show, because we want to make sure that every people have their own right, that every people has their own way to win market segmentation without the existence of someone who look like it they will win, they will exactly win, and they overshadow the other candidates. This is why we regret his Jokowi's candidacy in the presidential election in 2014. And we presidential election because we believe in terms of readiness, he is not ready enough. Because we believe as a good leader, you should prove to society that your program to prosper them is already succeed. This is why he is different from SBY. Because SBY, you as society has seen his work in 5 years. You have seen the success of his program. But Jokowi, this is different from him. Because what happened in status quo, media always portray the good side of him and it is overshadowing the goodness of the other candidates. This is why we will regret his existence in presidential candidate 2014. What I'm going to prove to you in this debate is in 2 extensions. First, I'm going to explain on how the candidation of Jokowi in presidential election will create a worse paradigm for politicians. And second, I'm going to explain on how Jokowi's candidation will harm the competitiveness inside the election itself. But before that, yes sir.
About the statement that actually as the leader you have to prove your program was successful. We believe on how that under the regime of Jokowi itself, he has made a betterment in Jakarta. So what is your claim about that? Thank you.
First, this betterment is tentative, right? We always show it because he is the only, because he won the spotlight from the very first time. This is what is wrong in Indonesia current condition, because the time when you get spotlight from the very first time, you always got there. And as other people, it is very hard for you to fight against his popularity and his upon society paradigm upon how good he is. So this is why we regret his candidation. I'm going to give my response toward the opposition team of the House. First, they say that citizens have right to choose whatever the leader. First, we think not all the right of society should be accommodated. Moreover, in this case, the society of Indonesia isn't valid because they are swayed by so many news that show his goodness without any counter information that there are the other candidates who do the same thing, who also contribute to society. Moreover, we can sacrifice this right of the citizen itself because government has better calculation, and in the end, his candidation will harm the whole nation because of this one-man show, because he always sways society and show he is the best one. And they also said that it is not forcement because in the end, Jokowi accepted anyway. First, we say it is still forcement because at the very first time, he never stated that he want to be the president. He said he want to continue to be the governor of Jakarta. But then he said he want to accept the candidation in the presidential election itself. It shows that there is something that we should question in this inconsistency, right? There is some forcement from a very strong body that he cannot reject. And I'm going to the next response upon the popularity. First, we say popularity can never measure your quality, right? Because like what I said before, the wrong in our society itself, once you own the spotlight, you always own it. And there is no way for other people, there's no chance for them to show that he is better because at the very first place, he got the spotlight. And we also find inconsistency from team opposition. First, they say Jokowi is very appropriate leader. They are different from others. That's why he is popular because he has done something that others never done. But in the other hand, in his closing speech, it is justifiable for Jokowi candidation because he is the same. This is the inconsistent stance from team opposition. I'm going to my first attention on how the candidation of Jokowi in presidential election will create a worse paradigm for politicians. First, let's talk about Jokowi's political history. First, he is becoming governor of Solo, and then he left Solo for Jakarta. And he is becoming super popular. He is known as the best leader in the country. Meanwhile, we never really see the success of his program because he always left it before he can finish it, before we even see the proof. That's why we say that his readiness can never measure because we never really see the success of his Indonesia itself. First, we think his candidacy will create paradigm that your position is a tool to gain popularity. It is not because you want to contribute to society, but you want to gain popularity. You want to be in the higher position. This is what we don't. This is why we very regret his existence in the election itself. And I'm going to my second extension on how Jokowi's candidacy will create harm for the competitiveness. First, we think I'm going to characterize the society in Indonesia. First, let's talk about the majority. Those who is easily swayed by the news, those who only follow the news, and those the time they elect the president, they never have the exact calculation because they easily swayed by the one who is very popular. They just choose the one who is very popular and overheard in the media. First, we think it will harm the competitiveness because let's compare. If Jokowi is accessed in the election itself, there is no one that exactly apprehend the others, and the competitiveness will be lesser. Because we always see him as the one who is very good. And if he doesn't exist in the election, we think society will be neutral. Because there is no someone that is super popular and known the best and the other. And everyone will motivate themselves to show to society that they are the one who can prosper and contribute much toward them. For all those reasons, this motion must stand.
Now I call the second speaker of opposition team, Chief of Police Ministry, Tumbi the basic difference between she told you that basically there is no actual proof of his successness for being a leader. I would like to repeat what my first speaker already stated. That basically the Jokowi already succeeds to fulfill his obligation as a good leader, because basically, as we can see in the current status quo, Solo is a nice, good city. Right? And the second point is Jakarta already improving into a better city, ladies and gentlemen. Jakarta already able to fix its several lacunas, ladies and gentlemen, and it is already proven clearly since my first speaker already stated in his first beginning of his speech. Continuing in my point of recommendation, we should see his motion also in the society point of view as well, ladies and gentlemen. We would like when we support the Jokowi candidate for the president of 2014, we believe that it is one of his ways to fulfilling the society demand of being the ideal figure as a leader, and being a good leader and being an ideal figure of a leader is not an easy thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's not easy to get in this spotlight, and it will eventually create a good impact towards the society if he chose him as a president for 2014, ladies and gentlemen. And it will increase the society trust, and it will ease every problem that happens in our current situation. And we would like to compare this motion we're not allowing Jokowi for stepping forward to becoming the candidate, because basically the effect of him not stepping forward as a candidate is the government team hasn't actually could show you an actual guarantee for another candidate. Ladies and gentlemen, they hadn't clearly stated to us. They couldn't show you what can the other candidate do for their contribution for this country, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, Jokowi already proven his contribution, his successfulness of being a leader, like my previous improvement already told you. Instead, when he became the candidate, he already because he already successfully proved you his successfulness of being a leader. It will trigger no rejection. It will increase more trust. It will create a better political point of view, because the society already aware of what kind of good leader that
ladies and gentlemen, at the very first place, we still believe that if we not implement these motions, at the end, the Jokowi charisma or the Jokowi one-man show will overshadow the other qualified person, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that actually in status quo there are so many qualified persons, but because of these kinds of charisma of Jokowi, at the end it will overshadow the other qualified person, ladies and gentlemen. That at the end of the day, the idea of competitiveness inside of politics will not be achieved, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, within our sides already proved to you how actually if we implement these motions, we still uphold the idea of competitiveness at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to clarify some of points from the opposition sides of the house. They say that the government sides of the house not do any kinds of affirmative action. First, we think it's a kind of value judgment debate and no affirmative actions on the very first place. We think that this is a value judgment debate. And let's point out the inconsistency from their team or the opposition sides of the house. Yes, first they say that Jokowi is made a lot of development towards Jakarta, towards Solo, and the Jokowi is always progress the town that the always progressing the technology or the policy inside that region itself. But at the end, these opposition sides of the house say that Jokowi is the same as like common people or other candidates. Well, we think the idea of Jokowi, no thank you, Jokowi is not the same on the very first place. Why? Because the struggle of Jokowi have not proven yet. Because the process when Jokowi become a governor of Jakarta, this policy of Jokowi is still in process. For example, they want to make a betterment in transportation and they make a kind of MRT and monorail, for example. And we think it's still in the process. Why? There is no clear result of this, ladies and gentlemen. And we think it's not the same with the other candidates. I give you an example with SBA. For example, SBA is have proven in the past. Why? Because on the 5 years the SBA become president, there are a lot of development, and that's why the society is choose SBA again in the second period. It shows that how Jokowi actually is different with the other candidate. For example, in this case, is SBA. Well, ladies and gentlemen, actually in this, let us compare which one better, their size or government size of the house. In government size of the house, we want to empower their competitiveness and no one can show inside the politics itself, because all the candidates is no overshadowing each other. We uphold the idea of competitiveness and no one can show. But in the other hand, they want at the end want to make one man show, because they just utilize the charisma of Jokowi to raise their dignity at the end of the day. We think it's kind of one man show, and we think this kind of proposal is good to government sides of the past. First point on the first place, they said that Jokowi is ideal and Jokowi is fulfill the criteria of the leader on the very first place. First, we think Jokowi is not fulfilling the idea of this, because he cannot even finish the mandate of society to make development in Jakarta itself. They even cannot finish this kind of development on the very first place. And we think good leader, they say that good leaders is based on the society. Well, we think these kinds of arguments are true, because government always standardize what is good and what is bad in the term of development or in the term of politics itself. That we think government always have right to standardize this. And they say that no thank you. And they say that Jokowi is not forcing. Well, we think the statement of Jokowi by saying that he wants to develop Jakarta until the end. But at the end, this Jokowi is saying that. But at the end, Jokowi wants to enroll as president at the end of the day. This is kind of inconsistency, and this inconsistency is very important. No, thank you. It's very important. Why? Because this inconsistency is in a very sensitive time. It's a very sensitive time in the time of election. That PDIP is a lack of qualified person, and the one who qualified person is only Jokowi. This inconsistency is always important at the end of the day. So we think that idea is already come down, and they say that we cannot harm the human right, and we cannot limit the human right, and we cannot limit the human right that never harm the other people. First, they didn't give clear parameter what is harm in this case. If harm in the term of competitiveness, we think it's harm at the end of the day because you use your Jokowi charisma for the one-man show at the end of the day. We think their idea already crumbled down, and they say that Jokowi is ready because Jokowi make a development. We think that his readiness is still cannot be made sure because the progress is still cannot be proved. Even in some cases in Jakarta, there are still many problems, or the MRT itself, or MRT or monorail is still banned or still suspended until this summer. We think the policy of Jokowi still cannot be proved at the end of the day. Now come to future implication point, the very first point. They say that to achieve spotlight is not easy, and it's kind of struggling of Jokowi. Well, we think it's not hard to gain the spotlight itself. But we think the problem is we never have counter information from this spotlight on the very first place. We just spotlight, or we just give information that Jokowi is good and Jokowi is better for our country, but never give a counter information for this. So we think that is their idea for justification and future implication already come down, and we think this motion should be spent.
Now I call the third speaker of opposition in the applause to Mr.
Right.
We have several kind of clarifications regarding the proposition of the House, and we have three major kind of questions. That the first is what I can see, second is what justifications, and the third is what future impact. Now, to figure the clarification first, we do believe that the strength of the government is actually still good until the utilities in German. How come? Because they only simply define that they even don't define that what is the meaning of iterate in this motion at the same time. We do not iterate doesn't mean anything in the proposal. Whether they are going to pen Jokowi to become elected and not as at the same time. We do not that the proposal is actually still blue. Second of all, we do believe that they never try to answer what the big question is more in this motion at the same time. How Jokowi should be claimed on the very first place. Why not Dahlan Iskan? Why not Dahlan Iskan who actually double job same with this kind of Jokowi at the same time? So that's why we do believe that the proposal is actually actually nonsense. We didn't classify the first one at the same time. They stated that actually is not the correct moment because they giving the reference from the very first place. First thing first, we do believe that Jokowi is come from a party side, so that's why we do believe that the purpose of the parties here is to work with the society. When Jokowi leave, even when Jokowi leave, parties here propose to work with the society, right? So that's why Jokowi action is always very accompanied by this kind of party at the same time. How come? For example, when I ask for urban corruption, we do believe that this kind of parties common. We do believe the common circumstances here, which is in Solo, is lived by Jokowi, ladies and gentlemen. So therefore, we do believe that in current circumstances, there are not a casualty which is happening in Solo, ladies and gentlemen. We do believe that proposal is actually on the exceptions. How come? Because we do believe that the process here is will continue on when this kind of Jokowi will start from in another stakeholder from the place. But however, first thing first, we do believe that Jokowi doesn't fulfill the priority Solo. Means that under that logic, they are going to replace this kind of Jokowi back to Solo, since this kind of Jokowi this kind of Jokowi is lived from Solo to Jakarta, ladies and gentlemen. Under that logic, they are going to replace this kind of Jokowi with Solo and the place. Second of all, we do believe there is no rejection since Jokowi said the apartment, ladies and gentlemen. Even Jakarta society is support because of the lack of capable presidential candidate, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why
May I have this point, sir?
Taking the example, when this kind of society in Solo, when Jokowi lived from Solo, we do believe that the society in Solo is actually support to in Jakarta because of this kind of Jokowi is actually appropriate to become leader in Jakarta because the society believes that there will be a better as a whole. Moreover, we do believe the Jakarta society will also feel the more betterment as a whole, ladies and gentlemen, when Jokowi become a president at the very first place, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we do believe that the proposal about urgency is adakan. The second point of crisis that is justification. But they said that actually they put increase in the dignity only because of Jokowi from the very first place. First thing first, we do believe that it's mutually exclusive argumentation, ladies and gentlemen. How come? Because it is very impossible when a party increase the dignity with access that is will access on capable with access and incapable leader, ladies and gentlemen. Another parties will use capable leader, right? So that's why the most access people is actually with used to increase the dignity, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why it's very mutually exclusive argumentations from the proposal to increase the dignity is always happening in all parties, ladies and gentlemen. Moving to the future impact, they said that actually competitiveness from the very first place. First thing first, they said also that actually no one to apprehend the Jokowi. First thing first, we do believe society is rational enough to do Jokowi, ladies and gentlemen. How come we do believe this kind of Jokowi is not the competitiveness of the election, ladies and gentlemen. First thing first, it's because of Jokowi, who they may say that actually when people it will have the competitiveness, since this kind of Jokowi popularity is not because of this Jokowi, but because of another stakeholder. We do believe that this kind of spotlight and another as is because of Jokowi itself could achieve their goal to become a good leader, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why spotlight and overshadowing is always happening when this kind of Jokowi is appropriate enough to lead Jakarta from the very first place, right? Let's point out future impact. Under that logic, when they said that no one who apprehend that Jokowi is that the Jokowi is become spotlight, ladies and gentlemen. First thing first, we do believe to be spotlight is should achieve their goal from the very first place. We do believe in the status quo, this kind of Jokowi is actually already fulfilled the goal since this Jokowi is become overshadowed and is become spotlight and another. As because of their goal is being achieved, ladies and gentlemen. We do believe that it's very capable enough and it's very ideal to Jokowi to become actions. Overshadowing is because of their job, not because of another stakeholder, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why it's very impossible when Jokowi only see and he become popular and he become overshadowing and he becomes spotlight when his kind of Jokowi is only sit, ladies and gentlemen. We do believe that spotlight overshadowing and another as is because of the job as Jokowi itself. So that's why the media is like able to appreciate this kind of value job.
Here.
Position. ladies and gentlemen, we believe that actually the only thing that should be done by the affirmative side of the House at the very first place when we are proposed this motion is to make the differences between Jokowi with another candidates, right? So that is why it's going to be clear debate whether why it should be Jokowi to be played by the affirmative side of the House. Since we see that actually, there's several that misconception which is coming from the affirmative side of the House. We believe that actually all of my speaker has already stated again and again that actually simply Jokowi is totally same with another candidates. How come? Let's say take the example like what my government, like what my opposition will have told you. That actually Jokowi is still working for the government, and nothing else. Dahlan Iskan is also working for the government. So what is the difference between Jokowi and also Dahlan Iskan itself? Another question will be why it should be Jokowi that is going to be played by them, ladies and gentlemen. That is never been answered at the end of the debate. Second clarification, we believe on how they actually, there is several kind of, totally like several likeness of that. Simply they keep manually stating that actually Jokowi harms the competitiveness and so on and so forth. Firstly, we believe on how they never try to tell you how does Jokowi harm the competitiveness, and even if it does, all of my speaker has already scrambled it down by saying that, let me tell you in my next clashes anyway. Third of all, we believe on how there is a big consistency over the affirmative side of the House. How come? There is a little bit inconsistency over there. Now let's stepping onto the clashes, and we believe that as the debate goes by, there are three major points of clashes which are happening on this debate. First, about the urgency. The Prime Minister set this motion up on the point of urgency, just simply that Jokowi is being forced and another thing else and so on and so forth. Firstly, we have neglected it down by saying that actually it is just an assumptive since there is no factual proof regarding the enforcement for the Jokowi itself. Even if they try to neglect it again by saying that there is the inconsistency. First, at the very first place, they say that no, but at the end they say yes. Firstly, my speaker already proved to you that actually there is, it's quietly not strong enough since there is no proof that actually there is inconsistency over there. Since we also believe that actually there is the individual willing over there, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, at the end, Jokowi agreed to the proposal, right? Means that also Jokowi established proposal means that he is not being forced, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that actually this point of urgency should go to the opposition team. Now, second clashes about justification. They believe on how that actually this motion is justified simply because Jokowi has harmed the competitiveness and so on and so forth. And this is the inconsistency and inconsistency over there. Simply they saying that how because Jokowi is being the spotlight and so on and so forth. All of my speaker has already proved to you. And even under their logic also, they believe that being spotlight, the only thing that you should do at the very first place is doing something, serve the society and achieve your goal, right? But let's see what is going to be happen with their speech. They believe that Jokowi is not, this time is not appropriate enough, Jokowi is failed and so on and so forth. So another question will be how Jokowi could get this kind of spotlight when they keep stating that Jokowi is failed, this time is inappropriate and so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that with this justification point, with those inconsistency, with those likeness explanation from the affirmative side of the House, we believe that with this point also should go to the opposition team. Now, let's see on the last questions in the future debate. We believe on how that actually the Prime Minister simply said say that actually this motion bring the impact that lessening the harm of competitiveness and so on and so forth. That it's quite the same with the justification point that has been probably done by all of my speakers. Instead of that, let's see what is going to be happening in our team. My deputy leader of opposition proposed to you on the future impact that it will increase the society trust toward the government and so on and so forth. But simply, they never try to implement those, and we believe that this point still stand, and this question also goes to the opposition team. Based on this clarification, this blown up of their inconsistency, and also these clashes, this motion should fall and goes to the opposition, since there is no difference between Jokowi and everything else. So that's why the proposal to claim Jokowi never being valid at the very first place, and we deserve to win this action.
Ladies and gentlemen, both sides agree to provide society of Indonesia a good and qualified leader. But we think only team government can provide a good leader because we believe as a leader we should count the readiness and the success of the program that has been made. This is why Jokowi is different from any other candidate like what we have explained to you. And I'm going to remind you that they respond my case in his reply speech, saying that we never give the exact parameter how he gonna hurt the competitiveness. But actually, my second speaker has clearly told you because it will hurt the competitiveness because there is an exact hierarchy, there is an exact winner, and it is going to give less motivation toward the other candidate. Let's talk about several burden of proof they never answer until the end of this debate. First question. The question is why we can still achieve healthy competitiveness with a very obvious popularity hierarchy. In our side, because we want to uphold the true competitiveness as a democratic country, that's why we regret the existence of the obvious hierarchy itself. That's why we regret his candidacy in the presidential election 2014. The next question is why we can continue the existence of internal spotlight for particular someone and not giving counter information about the quality of the other candidates. This is what we want to do in our stance from the very first time, right? And the third question they never answer is why the tentative and subjective success that they always clarify in this debate can guarantee that Jokowi is a good leader, because we believe this is not a permanent success, because even he cannot fulfill the mandate that has been given by the society, right? He even left the mandate that has been given by society in order to achieve higher position. This is why we regret his existence in the election itself. In this debate, we made two clash, first upon the justification and second upon the future implication. Let's analyze one by one. First, the justification point. We say that it is not justifiable because it is not a correct momentum for Jokowi, because the idea of being president and the governor of Jakarta is totally mutually exclusive. He cannot run both. That's why we think it is not a correct momentum for Jokowi. That's why we regret his existence in the election. And second, we think that his capability is not trusted enough, because the problem itself, the success of his program is very tentative, right? He left it, and we don't know the continuous of this program. And they say it is not justifiable. This proposal is not justifiable because as government we should fulfill society demand. We have proved to you that not all society demand should be fulfilled. Moreover, if the reason is not valid and government has a better reason to protect the society itself, to protect the whole nation, that's why we still apprehended them. The second justification from them is because this human rights never harm the other people. It's also been tackled even before they because they will think it is a tool, because if you are standing in the low government, it is a tool to get hierarchy in the high position of government itself. No engagement at all. So this point still goes to us. And the second extension, we have proven to you that it will harm the competitiveness, because there is the exam winner and the other candidate will be less motivated for this. And not them at all, right? And we also said that Jokowi's existence in the candidation itself will harm the extent of democracy, because we no longer provide the true competitiveness, but there is one exact winner in the election itself.